Ron, go ahead.
Great. Thank you, Adrian. I appreciate the opportunity. And thank you for our witnesses for joining us today. You know, during the last Congress, this committee successfully worked with the previous administration to pursue and pass the USMCA, a trade agreement that's going to be the template and should be the template for a lot of future agreements with allies like the UK. And the USMCA was a clear winner for farmers, manufacturers, entrepreneurs, small business owners, and American consumers. One of the most important parts, as we mentioned, is about USMCA was the enforcement provisions that ensured each nation lived up to its side of the deal. A trade agreement is only as good as its enforcement provisions. The improved dispute resolution that we got in USMCA should give the Biden administration the ability to fight for American interests in a way that was not possible with NAFTA. USMCA has the tools to help make American trade strong. Unfortunately, we've seen the Biden White House fail to fully implement USMCA and hold our trading partners accountable. There's so many examples of issues that need to be addressed, whether it's genetically modified corn, petroleum industry, dairy provisions, you know, and rather than fully enforcing USMCA, the Biden administration has decided to implement the agreement piecemeal, choosing controversial partisan issues over the issues that will help American families. It's just another example of where the administration's failed to make America strong again. For example, Mexico's unfair practices against the U.S. energy companies means it will not get any reprieve from the historically high gas prices that this administration has given us. If President Biden used the tools in USMCA to ensure fair energy agreements, it could alleviate some of the stress on American family budgets. Under President Biden, we now essentially have enacted a trade moratorium, no deals which help American families through a growing economy. When done right, free trade is the best way to lift people out of poverty and create a stronger America. It's crucial to discuss these tools that we have to further build upon successes like USMCA and to promote free and fair trade. My colleagues and I are all passionate about USMCA because we know the good that it can produce when enforced fully and its impact not only on our districts, but also around the globe. Mr. Comstock, do you think that enforcing the full U.S. Mexico-Canadian agreement would strengthen our U.S. economy? And what are some of the positive impacts it have on the pocketbooks of American families and small businesses?
I believe it would. I think that a robust agreement that allows for the free flow of trade across the borders will always impact our consumers and businesses positively. I think that to allow for the flow of energy both on both sides of the U.S.-Mexico border will support suppliers, small businesses as they work the infrastructure, as they allow for better logistics for fuel and fuel supply. And of course, there's also significant projects that can go on both sides of the border where significant capital can be invested. Of course, you know, with questions around how the trade agreement will actually be enforced, there's issues with how people are comfortable going forward with those, and so you tend to have issues with questions as to whether people wish to proceed with investment, whether people wish to proceed with projects, and as a result, you have a trickling effect on small businesses and suppliers, and then also consumers in different locations. So the whole idea of a trade agreement is that you sort of alleviate that. You make the border for trade purposes one that is understood, but through which flow can really be done without constraints or with minimal constraints so that the investment and consumers can benefit overall. I agree with you wholeheartedly that a strong trade agreement can help investors and businesses as well as consumers.
Well, thank you. And Mr. McHargue, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. I come from a neighboring farm state where we also value open markets and free and fair trade. What's the sentiment that you're finding amongst the farmers in Nebraska regarding advances in USMCA and what's their thoughts on how they can benefit from the agreement being fully enforced?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. And in general, agriculture performed very well under our previous agreement, and so there was some skepticism on as we moved into the new agreement. But we were excited about the fact of upgrading both the science and biotechnology side of that. We've advanced so far in those areas that it was important that that part be in this agreement, because as someone mentioned, this really could be the template for agreements being made with other countries. So to so quickly out of the gate be challenged from Canada on the dairy side that we weren't getting the amount of product going into Canada, to again quickly being challenged on the Mexico side relative to our biotechnology, that's frustrating. I mean, it's difficult when we have the tools, again, to do some of this stuff, and then seemingly fairly from not a lot of science say, nope, we don't want that. That's the whole point of a trade agreement. So that was frustrating for our producers.
Yeah, well, thank you, and I'll yield back.
Thanks, Ron.